So I'm here at Ho Chi Minh Mausoleum in Hanoi, Vietnam. It's already closed, but I just came to come check out the structure and see the Pillar of Pagoda and some of the stuff around the area. It's only open from 6 a.m. till 11 a.m. so you gotta wake up early and get here if you do want to come to the museum. I don't really care for it, and I'm not an early bird. As you know me, I sleep late and wake up late. Not a morning person. So I just wanted to come check out the exterior, see the structures, and do a short video of it. There is Ho Chi Minh inside. They waxed his remains, so then you actually see him still. There's a pond outside with a couple fishes, and the legend says that Ho Chi Minh knew every fish that was in there, and one day one of the fishes was missing and he knew exactly which one was missing. So I don't know, we're gonna check out the outside of it, and here's the fish pond that was rumored that Ho Chi Minh knew every fish that lived in this pond. Ho Chi Minh has had a very, very large impact on the Vietnamese culture and on Vietnam today. A little bit of background about him. He's probably one of my favorite political characters. Smart, young, talented, brave man. He traveled all over the world on a cruise ship, and then he finally settled in France, and that's where he learned English and French. He actually worked at the Ritz-Carlton for a couple of years. He came from a really, really poor background. And then he studied a lot about English. He wrote something similar to the Declaration of Independence for Vietnam. And during the time the French was trying to colonize Vietnam, he wanted Vietnam to keep their independence, so he came back to his motherland and tried to fight for Vietnamese independence. He actually wrote a letter to the US president first and asked for their help, saying that Vietnam wanted democracy. They wanted to be similar to America, but the president didn't reply back to him. So then when things started to get really bad, the French started putting President Dinh up, and there was a lot of corruption, there was a lot of religious intolerance. They were starting to burn down all the Buddhist monk temples, and he then looked to China, the country China, for help, and they helped him because they said, we don't want democracy close to our borders. We don't want Vietnam to be a part of democracy because they might try to make us become democracy. So China ended up lending weapons and backing them up during the war, and then after that they won. If you look back and read Ho Chi Minh's biography, he didn't really want communism for Vietnam. He wanted more peace and tranquility. He was a very simple man, and he wanted just people to be happy, and people were happy at first before the French came and colonized Vietnam. They were living very simple lives, but because there's so many resources here that were very valuable to the French at the time, the French would not let Vietnam have its independence. So at the end of the day, you got to do what you got to do. So it's interesting. That's why Vietnam is communist now. But I think if you look at Ho Chi Minh's biography, he actually writes something very similar to the Americans' Declaration of Independence. It has the same values and the same core for the country, but they ended up becoming communist because the French and Americans are alliances. So when the French needed help, the Americans had to come help. They couldn't go against them, go against their own partners. So that's a little bit of history about Vietnam. And then just a disclaimer, I did study a lot of history. I have a history minor, but every country has their own textbook about their history. What American textbooks say about the Vietnam War is totally different from what Vietnamese textbooks say about the Vietnam War. So, and there's so many different sides of the story. People interpret it differently. So, the history about Ho Chi Minh and about Vietnam that I know of might be a little bit different from the history that you know of, or might be different from what you've been told or your textbooks. But this is just what I've studied and what I've learned and what I believe to be true, because there's so many different stories out there. There's so many different interpretations of history. There's so many things that were recorded and so many things that were not recorded, and recorded in different ways and interpreted differently. And so this is just my interpretation of Ho Chi Minh and Vietnam. I'm inside one of the temples next to the mausoleum. The mausoleum's right there. So today is February 10th, 2016. It's still considered Tet thing. If you do come to the temples over here in Vietnam, so it's bad luck if you step over. There should be little wooden posts on the bottom when you enter and exit the temples. So you're supposed to go right foot first over and then left foot afterwards. It's bad luck if you do it vice versa. Another temple here right behind me. Walking around this like springing tree for good luck. So good luck for this new year. Yay. Done.